When the black maid discovered her guest was the hotel owner, the shocking truth revealed. The storm outside raged like a wild beast, howling through the night as lightning slashed the sky. Inside the historical Grand Elm Hotel, flickering candles cast eerie shadows that danced across the ornate walls. The entire building buzzed with a kind of energy. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind carried a secret. It was on this fateful night, during the midnight hour, that everything changed for Delilah, the hotel's trusted maid. She had always known the hotel was strange, but tonight, it felt positively haunted. In room 212, strange noises echoed off the walls, muffled sobs, rattling furniture. Delilah's heart raced as she approached the door, a chill creeping down her spine. After all, the last guest had checked out hours earlier. The air felt thick, charged with an electricity that sent shivers racing through her. It was as if the very hotel itself held its breath. As she opened the door, she was met not with an empty room, but with the silhouette of a man, his back turned to her, hunched over something on the floor. "Excuse me, sir," she stammered, feeling her throat tighten. "Are you all right?" No response. The man remained still, shrouded in shadows, like a ghost caught in time. A flicker of unease coursed through her. She knew all too well the stories of the hotel's past, the tragic guests, the whispers of hidden treasures, and even the strange disappearances that had shrouded it in mystery. She stepped further inside, the air growing heavier with each step. Just then, the man turned, and Delilah's breath caught in her throat. It was none other than Harold Bennett, the hotel owner, notorious for his reclusive nature, the very man who ruled this place from behind closed doors. Yet here he was in disarray, his face streaked with tears, clutching a tattered photograph. The contrast hit Delilah like a punch. The powerful businessman, reduced to a vulnerable form right before her eyes. What in the world could bring the master of the Grand Elm to such despair? Just as Delilah gathered her courage to speak again, the sound of the hotel's grandfather clock chimed ominously, cutting through the air and freezing Delilah in place. She realized the truth. There was no one around to witness this intimate moment, this unraveling of a man she had only known from afar. And that's when she noticed it. The photograph in his trembling hands, a faded image of a woman with haunting eyes, an evident link to his pain, and perhaps to the mysteries enveloping this place. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Delilah's mind raced as she tried to piece together the significance of the photograph. Who was she? Why did the sight of her evoke such raw, unfiltered emotion in someone as seemingly unshakable as Harold? The sound of footsteps echoed down the hall, drawing closer. Panic surged through Delilah. Would they interrupt this moment? As she glanced back at Harold, he wiped his eyes hastily before stuffing the photo deep into his pocket. "You can't tell anyone you saw me like this," he pleaded, the weight of his authority still somehow shimmering through his vulnerability. But just as the door swung open, revealing a hotel staff member looking for Delilah, a voice echoed from the shadows nearby. "Is everything all right in here?" The tension thickened like fog, stifling Delilah's ability to respond. What godforsaken secrets were hidden in the walls of this hotel? And why did it suddenly feel like everything was about to explode? With her heart racing and questions bubbling on her lips, she knew this was just the beginning of a story that would change everything. What had she stepped into, and would she dare to uncover the truth? The air in room 212 seemed to shimmer with uncertainty, as the hotel staff member stepped nervously inside. Delilah's eyes darted between the man in distress and her colleague, desperate to mask the mounting panic in her chest. Harold quickly composed himself, the hardened facade of the hotel owner slipping back into place, as he wiped his face with the back of his hand. "What is wrong, Delilah? You look pale," the staff member asked, her brow furrowed with concern. "Just checking in on Mr. Bennett," Delilah managed to say, forcing a tension-filled smile while her heart pounded like a drum in her ears. The glances exchanged between her and Harold felt as heavy as lead. Could she really keep his secret? "I'm fine," Harold asserted, his voice suddenly strong but with a hint of exhaustion. "Just a little overwhelmed. Please proceed with your duties." The staff member hesitated, unsure whether to challenge him. But protocol prevailed, and she stepped back, casting one last curious look before closing the door. "This isn't over," Delilah said, her voice barely above a whisper, as she locked eyes with Harold once more. "Trust me, it's better for you to walk away from this," he urged, desperation cracking through his authoritative tone. His hands trembled slightly, resting on the edges of the table. "You don't want to get wrapped up in my mess." Despite the sincerity in his voice, Delilah felt a flicker of defiance ignite within her. She had always prided herself on her courage. "Or maybe I can help you." He shook his head vehemently, the haunted look in his eyes deepening. Just as he opened his mouth to respond, a series of loud bangs echoed from the floor below, shaking the ground beneath them. The storm outside had escalated, intensifying the chaos within the hotel. It felt like an omen. "What was that?" Delilah's voice quavered, the fear creeping back in. "Stay here," Harold ordered, stepping toward the door. But Delilah, driven by an impulse she couldn't explain, followed him. As they moved into the hallway, the lights flickered, casting shadows that seemed to stretch and contort, whispering secrets only they could understand. The sounds grew louder, a panicked voice calling for help mingled with the bizarre thud of something heavy being dragged. Delilah felt her breath catch in her throat. "What is happening?" she whispered urgently, glancing back at Harold. "We need to find out," he said grimly. Together, they moved toward the staircase, where the commotion was loudest. Each step felt like a descent into madness, the uncertainty thick in the air. The haunting echo of the grandfather clock chiming again sent chills racing down her spine. As they neared the lobby, the scene unfolded like a nightmare. A group of terrified guests huddled near the entrance, pointing at the shattered glass doors that led to the outside world. "Someone has been hurt," one of the guests cried out, her eyes wide with terror. "What the hell is going on?" Delilah breathed, her chest tightening. Harold reached out, gripping her arm tightly. "We must leave. Now!" But Delilah's curiosity roared louder than her fear. "I have to see," she insisted, breaking free from his grasp and pushing through the crowd. What she saw made her blood run cold. Outside, through the fractured splinters of glass, a figure lay motionless in the rain, the flickering lights casting an otherworldly glow around the scene. "Delilah! Don't!" Harold's voice was a frantic plea. But the truth was calling her, beckoning her forward. What had she stumbled into? What dark secrets were waiting just beyond that threshold? With a heart racing between horror and determination, she had to know. What lay beneath the surface of the Grand Elm Hotel was only beginning to unravel. Would she be strong enough to confront the truth, or would it consume her whole? Delilah pressed closer to the shattered door, her heart pounding wildly, as she took in the sight before her. The rain fell in thick sheets, washing over the lifeless form sprawled on the pavement. Was this person a victim of the storm, or was something far more sinister at play? "Get back!" Harold shouted, shoving her away just as a flash of lightning split the sky, illuminating every horrifying detail. Delilah stumbled back, her breath hitching at the sight of blood pooling around the body, mingling with raindrops. She spun around, searching Harold's face for answers, but found only grim determination. "We can't stay here," he urged, his voice shaking as if the storm were inside him. "Who is it?" Delilah demanded, defiance turning her voice steely. She refused to let fear dictate her actions now. "Just a guest," Harold snapped, his eyes darting nervously toward the chaos unfolding outside. "It doesn't matter. We need to leave." Before Delilah could protest, the eerie wail of sirens cut through the air, ascending like a creeping dread. The sound seemed to slither into their ears, enveloping them in a haze of panic. The crowd began to scatter, whispers swelling around them. "Did you see? It's Mr. Bennet," someone gasped, their eyes wide with shock. The name hit Delilah like a fist to the gut. Suddenly, the urgency of the situation compressed around her like a vice. "Mr. Bennet? The man who was in room 212? She asked, her voice strained. She turned to Harold, seeking clarity. "What do you know about this?" Harold's expression turned cold, a hard mask slipping back into place. "I don't have time for this, Delilah." He took her arm, pulling her toward the staircase. "We need to get you away from here." But something in her chest spurred her on. The need for the truth clawed at her, relentless. "No! You're hiding something, and I need to know what it is." The echo of the sirens grew louder, closer. She could see the red and blue lights flashing through the broken glass like ominous beacons. People rushed past them, oblivious to the tension coiling between the two of them. "Delilah, please!" Harold shouted, desperation etching deeper into his voice. "This isn't about you anymore." "You can't help." Just then, a sharp scream pierced through the storm's fury, freezing everyone in place. It was followed by a figure emerging from the shadows, a woman in a black uniform, her face pale as death. "It's him!" she screamed, tears streaming down her cheeks as she staggered toward them. "He is dead. He was dead when I tried to help him." The woman's admission sent shockwaves through the crowd, and Delilah felt the sickening churn in her stomach. "What do you mean?" But the woman frantically pushed through the crowd, collapsing to the ground, her sobs mingling with the rain. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I swear." Harold's eyes widened with fear, and for the first time, Delilah saw a glimpse of vulnerability, the mask slipping just enough for her to glimpse the truth within. "Enough, Delilah. This is bad. Really bad." She could see the weight of the moment pressing on him like a suffocating shroud, and a new thought flickered to life in her mind. If this isn't Mr. Bennet's doing, who is responsible? With the world around them turning into chaos, Delilah suddenly had an unsettling revelation. Everything she had thought she knew about Harold, the hotel, and even herself stood on the brink of exposure. "Will you help me find out?" she asked, hands trembling but determined. As he looked at her, his expression haunted, Harold hesitated. For the first time, he seemed less like the owner of this hotel and more like a man in fear. Before he could respond, another loud crack of thunder boomed above, drowning out their conversation as the rain intensified. Delilah could feel the shadows lengthening around them, pulling tighter as the storm raged outside. She realized then that the truth was just beyond her reach, something slippery that might slip away if she didn't act fast. Would she have the courage to grasp it before it vanished forever? Harold's pulse quickened, tension thickening the air between them. We might be too late. As sirens wailed and the rain poured heavier, Delilah took a deep breath. It was now or never. What dark secrets lay ahead, ready to unravel? And how far was she willing to go to face them? The air was electric, thick with uncertainty as Delilah's pulse raced. "Too late for what, Harold?" she demanded, urgency snapping in her voice. Every shifting shadow around them felt like it held a secret that could unravel at any moment. He opened his mouth, hesitation clear on his face, But the thunder rolled again, and the moment shattered. Without another word, Harold tugged her toward the rear exit of the hotel, the pounding rain swallowing their footsteps. "Everyone else leaving," he whispered, glancing back as the chaos surged outside. "We should too." "Leaving? No. We can't just abandon this," Delilah protested, digging her heels in despite the rain soaking them to the bone. "What if there's more to this?" With fierce urgency, Harold turned to her, his eyes ablaze. "What if you get us both killed?" His expression held a weight that reminded her of the storm, a tempest ready to unleash everything it held inside. But amid her own fear, something deeper ignited a flame of determination within her. "What if we figure this out now?" Delilah said, nodding toward the crowd that grew more frantic with each passing minute. Faces blurred in the flickering lights. The panic was almost palpable. "Mr. Bennett, didn't he just die here for no reason?" Harold's shoulders slumped, and Delilah caught the flicker of doubt in his eyes. The rain drummed relentlessly on the pavement, but she stood her ground. "Think about it. If there's more to this, his death could be connected to everything happening at this hotel." "Delilah," he began, his voice roughened. "I can't, then let me ask the questions," she pressed on, her heart hammering. "I'll go alone if you want help." In that moment, Harold seemed to struggle with himself, desperately wanting to protect her yet knowing he was entangled in something darker. Finally, he nodded sharply. "We'll find out, but this isn't just any mystery. It leads to someone." Before he could finish, another scream cut through the air, drawing their eyes to a woman stumbling from the crowd, her face bloodied, her shirt torn. "He's not dead. Mr. Bennett, he was alive," she gasped, her wide eyes locking on Delilah, fear pooling in their depths. Delilah felt her skin go cold. "What do you mean he was alive?" The woman took a shuddering breath, trembling hands gesturing wildly. "He's been trapped in that room. They didn't just leave him. Somebody locked him in." A gust of wind blew past them, carrying an icy chill that had nothing to do with the storm. Harold's jaw tightened as Delilah's mind raced. "Locked in? Did that mean someone had planned this?" "Who locked him in?" she demanded. The woman opened her mouth, but before she could utter another word, a figure stepped out from the shadows, a tall man, his face obscured by the downpour. The streetlight cast strange shadows, flickering on the man's face like a glitching projection. "Don't listen to her," he rasped, taking a step closer, his eyes darting around as if expecting someone or something. "She is dangerous." "Dangerous?" Delilah felt confusion dig deep into her stomach. "What are you talking about?" "Leave now, while you still can," he warned, the urgency in his voice almost tangible. Panic bubbled in her chest. Was he a friend, or was he part of this unfolding nightmare? "Harold, what do we do?" Delilah's voice broke through the fear. "Stay close," he commanded, steeling himself. "Whatever you do, don't let anyone separate us." The urgency in his voice turned her gut to ice as Harold's grip tightened around her wrist, dragging her closer. Who was this man? What was his connection to whatever horror lay behind those closed doors? As the sirens continued to wail, and the rain pounded mercilessly, uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud above them. They were on the precipice of a revelation that could change everything. And just as they prepared to dig deeper, the lights flickered out, plunging them into darkness. "What now?" Delilah gasped, piecing together the fragments in her mind. With the air electric and the storm raging, only one thought lingered. The truth was buried here, someone was hiding it. But who, and at what cost? A whisper of movement echoed just beyond the flickering lights, and fear slid down Delilah's spine. "Who is there?" she called, her voice steady but laced with dread. As silence fell around them, she couldn't shake the feeling. Whatever they were about to uncover could unravel not just the hotel, but their very lives as well. "Please," she murmured, voicing the question that loomed closest to her heart. What is the real story here? And just like that, the darkness seemed to creep a little closer, ready to engulf them. Delilah's heart pounded like a drum in the stillness, drowning out the chaos just outside, leaving only the echoes of her own racing thoughts. She couldn't see Harold in the pitch black, but she felt his presence, a solid anchor amid the uncertainty. Suddenly movement caught her attention. Shadows played tricks, shifting against the distant glow of stormy skies. A soft whimper cut through the silence, chilling her to the bone. "Harold?" she whispered, terrified of the dark swallowing them whole. "Stay close," he murmured, his voice barely reaching her over the relentless rain, each syllable an unsteady promise. They edged forward cautiously, every breath a reminder of the urgency gripping them like a vice. Ironically, this hotel, a monument of elegance and comfort, was now a maze of threats. "Do you think she was telling the truth? About Mr. Bennet?" Delilah asked, her voice shaking. "Maybe. But the things people say," in panic Harold trailed off, a grim realization hanging between them. Just as Harold's words settled in her mind, the lights flickered back to life, casting a harsh glow over the crowd. Murmurs rippled through the throng of people, expressions of confusion and fear reflecting what she felt inside. But something shifted in the air. A figure emerged from the shadows, framed by the hotel entrance, a woman, dressed in a dark Maid's uniform, her hands trembling, eyes wide with terror. The instant their gazes locked, Delilah felt a jolt of recognition. "Wait! You're the one who was working here," she shouted over the noise. "What do you know?" The maid took a step forward, her voice trembling. "You have to listen to me. They're hiding something, something awful." "What do you mean?" Delilah pressed, feeling the urgency building as Harold kept a protective stance beside her. "The last time I saw Mr. Bennet, he was alive." But the maid hesitated, glancing behind her as if someone might appear from the shadows. "He told me he was finding something. Something dangerous was hidden here, and they didn't he want him to expose it." Delilah's blood ran cold. Who didn't he want him to expose it? Just then, the man who had warned them earlier stepped from behind a pillar, eyes wild and frantic. "Stop! You don't understand," he shouted, his voice rising above the storm. "You're not safe here." "Who are you?" Delilah demanded, confusion mingling with fear. "I'm the one who knows what is really going on. Mr. Bennet was onto something that could change everything about this hotel, about everyone." His frantic gestures animated the air around them, desperation lacing each word. "What could it change?" Harold asked, stepping forward, his protective instinct not fading even in the face of potential danger. "I can't say without," but before he could finish, 3 figures burst through the door like a surge of dark clouds breaking free, catching everyone off guard. "They're coming!" the maid screamed, her voice cracking. Delilah felt the encroaching dread, like a wave flooding in. At the edges of her awareness, she could sense the chaos closing in a tightly wound coil ready to snap. "Run!" Harold shouted, and the crowd erupted into a frenzy. Delilah's heartbeat thudded in her ears as they broke away from the chaos, but it was already too late. The figures had spotted them. Shouts erupted as panic surged through the crowd. "Delilah!" Harold shouted, pulling her along as they weaved through terrified masses, their feet pounding against the floor, a desperate race against the unknown closing in on them. "Which way?" Delilah yelled, looking to Harold for guidance as they darted towards the back exit. "Back to the service hallway, the kitchen. We can find a way out," he urged, determination flooding his voice. As they rounded a corner, Delilah took one last glance back. The maid was still there, her eyes wide, pleading for help. "Don't leave me," she cried. "Stick with us," Delilah shouted, wanting to help but knowing they had no time. The urgency was thick in her throat. choking her as they pressed forward. Tension crackled in the air, the hotel tearing at the seams. Around them, each step they took felt like a perilous leap into the unknown, the storm outside echoing their fear inside. Just as they reached the kitchen door, a piercing scream ricocheted behind them, freezing Delilah in place. She couldn't move, couldn't leave the woman behind. "Delilah, we have to go," Harold yelled, his grip tightening on her wrist. But the sound of approaching footsteps sent her heart racing. The walls were caving in, and every instinct urged her to stay and fight, to uncover the truth that lingered just beneath the surface. "Delilah." "Now!" Harold's voice pierced through her fog. And in that split second, the choice loomed before her like the storm overhead, what path to take, and what it might cost. As they slid through the kitchen door into the darkness, the last echo of the woman's scream faded, swallowed by the shadows, just as their resolve hardened. But deep inside, a whisper haunted her. What awaited them in the night could unravel more than just the secrets of the hotel, and as the door slammed shut behind them, sealing off their escape, a chilling realization dawned. Someone was waiting for them, just beyond the veil of darkness, ready to play their final card. The kitchen was a cacophony of clattering pots and sizzling pans, sounds that echoed in Delilah's ears like ghosts of the Grand Hotel now lost to chaos. She and Harold stumbled into the cramped space, heartbeats racing as they tried to steady themselves against the cold steel of the counter. The warmth of the kitchen offered a stark contrast to the dread creeping in from the storm outside. "Can you hear that?" Delilah whispered, straining to catch any sound over the distant screams and banging from the dining hall. It was as if the walls themselves were alive with fear, reverberating with every unsteady breath she took. Harold was scanning the room, his brow furrowed in concentration. "It's too quiet," he finally said, the tension in his voice making her stomach twist. "We need to move. There's got to be a back exit somewhere." Against her better judgment, she nodded, eyes flickering towards the large back door leading to the service alley. "What about the maid?" "We can't help her now," Harold said, his voice firm yet strained. "Right now, we have to help ourselves." Delilah swallowed hard, her heart sinking as guilt anchored her. There was something about the maid's desperate plea, something that pulled at her. But she couldn't dwell on it. They had to escape this place. As they crept toward the back door, a sharp crash resonated from the main hall, sending a shiver up Delilah's spine. "Hurry!" she urged, adrenaline surging through her veins as they dashed across the tiled floor slick with spilled water and oil. Just as they reached the door, it swung open, revealing a figure shrouded in darkness. Delilah's heart dropped, instinctively pulling back, but it was too late. The figure lunged forward, and an icy grip closed around her wrist. "Delilah, no!" Harold shouted. He surged ahead, ready to fight whoever it was that had captured her. But when the kitchen lights flickered back on, Delilah gasped. It was the maid, panting heavily, her uniform stained and torn. "You wouldn't believe what I found," she explained, eyes wide and frantic. "Let go of her," Harold shouted, his voice low and menacing. "No! Wait!" the maid said, her voice quavering as she released Delilah's wrist. "I found something hidden in the pantry. Evidence of what Mr. Bennett was after. I think I know what they don't want you to see." Time seemed to freeze. Delilah looked between Harold and the maid, torn between the urgency of escape and the need to uncover the truth that might set them free. "What did you find?" she asked, her pulse racing anew. "There's a locked drawer in the office. It holds everything: the guest records, the financials, secrets they want exposed." The maid's breath came in frantic gasps. That's what Bennett was looking for. Harold took a step back, weighing the chaos outside and the maid's revelation. "We need to get to that office," he said finally, determination overtaking his fear. "And if it holds the truth, we can't just leave it." Then we go together, Delilah said, the decision solidifying like steel in her heart. But before they could even think of their next move, the door creaked ominously. The harsh sound sliced through the tension. They turned, horror pulling at their features as the figures from the hallway emerged, 3 silhouettes, their faces obscured in the shadows. Nowhere to run, one hissed, a chilling smile evident in the dim light. Delilah felt a cold wave wash over her, dread knotting in her gut. They were trapped. The adrenaline that had pushed her forward now faltered, and she felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her chest. "Go!" Harold bellowed, pushing Delilah toward the pantry. "We can hold them off. Just find that drawer." But as she ducked into the pantry, Delilah realized there was no escaping the truth now. Whatever Mr. Bennet had dug up had ensnared them all in a web thicker than any storm outside. And just like that, she stood frozen, clutching her breath, as the threat seeped through the cracks of the hotel. What awaited her on the other side was a revelation that could shatter everything. As she reached for answers hiding in the shadows, would she uncover the truth before it consumed them? The pantry was smaller than Delilah remembered, the shelves closing in around her like a vice. Shadows flickered as the lights above danced erratically, making it hard to focus. She could hear Harold's strained voice filtering in from the kitchen, bursts of chaos that somehow felt surreal at this moment. "Delilah," he shouted, a raw urgency in his tone. "Get the drawer. I'll hold them off." She moved, heart pounding, fingers trembling as they searched among the clutter. Cans, jars, an old broom, it all felt so mundane under the circumstances. What drawer? The maid's frantic words echoed in her mind. The office. There had to be something, anything, that could expose the horrors lurking in the shadows of the hotel. Then, through the chaos outside, she caught a glimpse of something glittering in the far corner, an ornate box wedged deep within the shelf. She pulled it free, the weight of it heavy in her hands. This had to be the key. But the moment she turned to leave the pantry, the door was shoved wide open, and one of the figures was there, a hulking silhouette with eyes glinting like knives. "Thought you could hide?" he taunted, stepping into the pantry. The smell of sweat and something rotten flooded her senses as the door creaked ominously behind him. "Leave her alone!" Harold's voice rang out again. Thuds of struggle echoed, and Delilah's heart raced. She had to act. Whatever was in this box could change everything, but first, she had to survive. Delilah lunged forward, the box clutched tight to her chest. With a burst of adrenaline, she shoved past the intruder, his hand grazing her arm, fingertips brushing against her skin like ice. She didn't look back. "Get to the office." Harold's voice was filled with urgency, but she could hear the fight draining from him. But she didn't have time to think about him. She dashed through the swinging door into the chaos of the kitchen. The rhythm of her heart echoed in her ears, drowning out the clatter of pots, the angry shouts, the screams that felt miles away. She had a singular mission now: find the office. Just as she stepped into the corridor, a loud crash sent her heart to her throat. A body thudded to the ground behind her. She spun around to see the maid, struggling against one of the masked figures, her face contorted in fear. "Delilah," the maid cried out, panic racing through her voice. "I can't keep moving," Delilah yelled, pushing herself forward, desperate to pierce through the terror. The office door was just ahead, but it felt like a lifetime away. The shadows of her pursuers chased her like phantoms, their taunts echoing in her ears. "You can't escape the truth," another voice growled, deep and menacing. "You're trapped." Panic breaths filled Delilah as she reached the office door, an oak barrier that seemed to pulse under her fingertips. With trembling hands, she fumbled for the knob, twisting it with all the force she could muster. It swung open, and she stumbled inside, the dim light enveloping her like a shroud. Her breath caught when she saw it, an antique desk, papers scattered everywhere. The locked drawer gleamed maliciously at her, the key hidden among the chaos of the documents. "Where are you?" Harold shouted from somewhere in the hallway. "Just hold on," she cried, the box clattering to the floor as she rifled through the papers. The key, where was it? Suddenly, the office door flung open. The masked figure leered at her, a dark satisfaction etched across his face. The moment was too tight, filled with danger and desperation. "Let us see what secrets you're hiding," he snarled, and Delilah's heart threatened to stop. As she grabbed the nearest paper and pressed it against her chest, she spotted movement in the shadows, a flash of metal at the figure's waist. Realization crashed over her. They wanted her to reveal the truth, but they were hiding something much worse. Within seconds, she needed to make a decision. Do she confront them or flee into the unknown? The truth was right there, but at what cost? As Delilah felt the fragile world around her teetering on the edge, she clutched the paper tightly, heart racing. Would the revelations lead to salvation or destruction? And then, a flicker in her mind, a question that spun into being. Who is really behind this dark storm? The moment had come. Delilah's heart thudded painfully in her chest, the masked figure towering over her like an executioner waiting for the final blow. In this moment, time seemed to warp, every second stretching out like an eternity. She could see the glint of the knife at his waist, a promise of blood and violence that tugged at the edges of her sanity. It whispered to her, "Surrender, and you may not suffer." "Hand over the paper," he demanded, his voice oily and cold. "Or I'll make you." "What is the cost of that truth?" she shot back, surprising herself with the defiance that crackled in the air. But inside, a storm raged. Fear clawed at her gut, and the intimate knowledge that each second that passed could lead to collateral damage, not just for her, but for everyone around her, weighed heavily on her shoulders. "Enough games, girl," he sneered, stepping closer, invading her space until the smell of his foul breath made her nausea rise. She took a shaky step back, her fingers brushing the edge of the desk in search of any weapon, any chance of escape. Then her eyes fell upon the ornate box she'd pulled from the pantry. It lay forgotten on the floor, an unwanted distraction now looming with potential, and she gasped as realization struck. With a swift motion, she bent down to grab the box, heart racing. There was a chance if that box contained what she hoped, it could expose everything. "What if I show you something?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. "Something that really reveals the truth." For a moment, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. He hesitated, caught off guard, as if the mask he wore didn't quite conceal his deep-seated fear of discovery. "What are you talking about?" "The box," she said, defiance fueling her words. "It holds secrets you don't want to miss." She drew herself up, clutching the box tightly, feeling the weight of it cradle her determination. "I know what you're hiding, what you're all hiding. The hotel, its history. There are things inside this box that could destroy you." Something shifted in him, a slight break in the menacing facade. "Open it," he commanded, and she might have smiled, if only desperation didn't bind her. With trembling hands, she lifted the lid. A rush of cold air spiraled out, and she could almost feel the shadows seep from it, creeping along the ground toward him, whispering secrets of their own. Inside lay a collection of old photographs and letter snippets of lives disrupted, maps detailing hidden passages within the hotel, and more. A piece of paper caught her eye. "This," she began, extracting it carefully. "This was the owner's secret, wasn't it? The missing children, the debts, the disappearances." Her voice trembled, carving a jagged line through the tension. His eyes narrowed, fury rising with every word spoken. The man advanced, fists clenched. "You don't know what you're tapping into." "The truth?" she shouted back. "This isn't just about me. If I go down, I want to be alone in this." His confidence faltered slightly, the bubble of intimidation popping, as he registered the combined force of the past and present colliding. A glint of uncertainty flickered before him. Do you want to know what's worse than your secrets coming to light? It's the bodies that stay hidden, he whispered harshly. A chill crept up her spine, and before she could react, the door slammed behind him. The crash echoed in her ears like a gunshot. They were here, just outside, closing in with a malevolent haze that seeped through the cracks in her sanctuary. She had no choice. This fight wasn't going to end well unless she found a way out. Taking a deep breath, she rounded the desk, searching for an escape route as the shadows began to seep through the doorway, creaking like specters encroaching upon her. Delilah? Harold's voice called from the hall, a grave urgency that echoed in the fast-fading light. Don't let them take you. But there was one last fork in the road, a choice that could plunge her deeper into darkness or bring the truth crashing forth, exposing everything. Could she reveal the secrets, bargaining her survival for something greater? Or would she flee, leaving the shadows to dance around fate, knowing she might never return? Her fingers brushed the photographs again, the weight of history heavy in her hands. One choice could save the hotel, and perhaps her life. But at what cost? As the door behind her began to splinter, the decision loomed large: stay and confront the darkness, or run deep into the unknown, with only secrets as her companion. And then, the shadows whispered again, what if the deeper truth was closer than she dared imagine? Delilah's heart raced as she felt the vibrations of footsteps on the other side of the door. Panic curled inside her, tiny pinpricks of dread bursting in her chest. Could this be the moment everything changed? Could she keep her head above water, even as the tide of secrets threatened to pull her under? She turned back to the box, poring over the photographs and letters again as the shadows writhed, crawling closer. Each image whispered its own tale of despair like echoes of lives longer past, begging for justice. Would they provide the salvation she needed, or the demise of hope altogether? Delilah! Harold shouted again, his voice sharp with urgency, cutting through the muffled darkness. You need to get out now. The urgency in his words sent a bolt of determination through her. She couldn't let fear paralyze her any longer. She wasn't going to become just another lost soul in this cursed hotel. Wait! She called back, her voice desperate yet steady. What do I do? Find me. His tone cracked, strained with worry. Get to the service stairwell. I can help you. The door splintered again, a jagged sound like thunder clasping her ears. There wasn't much time left. She gathered what courage she had left, pushing aside the photographs that could bury her in memories of the past. She had to trust her instincts now, not the shadows that whispered fear. Each step toward the door felt heavy, but as she reached for the knob, a sudden sound stopped her cold, a soft, sinister chuckling from behind the door. It came again, a low rasp that sent chills down her spine. Run, little mouse, the voice taunted, cold and cruel. I love a good chase. With a blast of adrenaline, she pulled open the door, just as it broke free from the frame. She didn't hesitate. She dashed into the hall. The hotel swallowed her whole in an instant, pouring shadows from every corner. She sprinted, her heart pounding like a war drum, desperate to reach the service stairwell Harold had mentioned. Footsteps pursued her, a chaotic rhythm that seemed to dance in tandem with her fear. Down the dimly lit corridor she ran, the air thickening with anxiety. The old wallpaper peeled like unspooled secrets, revealing something menacing just beneath the surface. Delilah! Harold's voice grew closer, a beacon amidst the dark. But the voice behind her grew louder too, taunting her as she turned a corner, almost as if it fed off her panic. You want to escape, Delilah. The truth, it will always find you. She skidded to a halt as the door to the stairwell loomed before her. Just as she reached for the handle, a flash of movement caught her eye. The masked man stood at the end of the hall, glinting knife reflecting the dim light like a shard of treachery. Caught between the truth and lies, are we? He taunted, taking slow, deliberate steps toward her. How poetic. Leave me alone, she yelled, pushing open the door and diving in. She didn't pause to look back, just plunged into the darkness of the staircase. It twisted and turned like a labyrinth, each step driven by desperation. But suddenly, her feet slipped on something slick. She glanced down to see a dark stain on the steps, thick and ominous. What is that? Her breath hitched as dread settled in her stomach. Something about it felt wrong, unnaturally wrong. Are you scared? The masked man's voice echoed behind her, followed by laughter that twisted her insides. You should be. With a surge of energy, she raced up the stairs, unconcerned for the bruises forming on her legs. Each step connected to a new fear, a new realization, a cost she had yet to understand. As she burst through another door at the top, the echo of her movements seemed to awaken something in the corridor beyond. Shadows flickered along the walls, stretching and twisting like flames in a darkened room. But one question pulsed through her mind. What awaited her on the other side? Was there more hiding in the secrets of the hotel than she had ever imagined? Harold's figure stood silhouetted against a flickering light, eyes wide with alarm. Delilah, before he could finish, the ground shook beneath him. The hotel was alive, and it wouldn't be long before it reared its ugly head to claim its next victim. Was she destined to be part of its bloody history? Or was the real truth something she would uncover, no matter the cost? Delilah stumbled into the corridor, breathless, and found Harold waiting there with a pained expression etched across his face. "Where have you been?" he shouted over the chaos. The distant clamoring of voices and sinister laughter echoed behind her. "We need to keep moving. I can't just run away," she insisted, clutching the ornate box tightly. "Not now. I found something. Something big." Fear rolled in her chest. The truth was both an outlet and a weight she wasn't sure she could bear. But the look in Harold's eyes told her he understood. This was bigger than them, and deeper than the ground they stood on. "Whatever it is," he urged, glancing nervously behind her, "we'll deal with it later. Right now, we have to get out." She shook her head, feeling defiance grow inside her. "If we leave now, we let them win. We've come this far, Harold. We can't just turn away." Harold sighed, the tension in his shoulders rolling like thunder outside. "Okay. Let us find the office and get the truth out in the open." With urgency, they moved down the corridor, light flickering menacingly above them. The air felt charged, almost alive with anticipation, as they pushed through, the fear weighing heavy on their shoulders. They finally reached the office door, its once grand stature now marred by the chaos surrounding it. Delilah's heart quickened. She could practically taste the answer swirling within reach. Taking a deep breath, she grasped the knob and twisted it, pulling the door wide open. "I'll cover you," Harold said, positioning himself between her and the shadows inching ever closer. But Delilah's eyes were drawn to the desk, the locked drawer shimmering with promise. "Just give me a second," she whispered, nervously scanning the room, making sure they were alone. Drawing closer to the desk, she fumbled through the scattered papers, her fingers brushing against a key that lay half buried among documents. "I found it," she shot back, pulling the key from the mess. "Help me." With a swift motion, she inserted the key into the locked drawer, her heart pounding. The sound of the lock clicking open echoed like a distant gunshot, and Delilah felt her breath hitch. Harold stayed watchful, ready to react should danger come barreling through those doors. But she hesitated. The drawer slid open, revealing a trove of records, old photographs, guest lists, even names scratched onto yellowed papers. Horrific stories of disappearances, identities of patrons lost to the whispers of the hotel, marred by countless lunch conversations that fell from the lips of its occupants. Delilah, Hurry, Harold urged, his voice a mixture of fear and resolve. Under his watchful gaze, she rifled through the documents, caressing the images that should belong to people, lives, and families. Look at this. They were all staying here before they vanished, she cried out. These records, if we can get them to the police, it could expose everything. His gaze darted toward the door. It wouldn't matter if they catch us first. But as she slid out her phone, preparing to document the evidence while a chill ran down her spine, the door creaked open, spilling light into the office. A dark silhouette stepped inside, a silhouette she recognized. The masked figure who had been hunting her, eyes narrowed. Did you really think you could get away with this? His voice was a low growl, the grin on his lips revealing something darker. Stop, Harold shouted. You're not taking her. Delilah's heart raced at the fear coursing through Harold's words. You need to show yourself, she demanded, throwing her defiance into the air, but inside, she quaked. This stood to be the moment they shut her down and silenced the truth forever. One swift move, and the intruder lunged towards Harold, and a fist fight broke out, the violence erupting in the small space. Mental calculations raced in Delilah's mind. Was there a way to turn this around? Could they escape? As Harold sidestepped, the intruder fell to the ground and distractedly looked at Delilah. You think you're being brave, but you'll find out what fear really is. With a surge of determination, she reached for the box she had found. The evidence clinked ominously within, and hurled it at the figure's face with all her strength. It struck him squarely, throwing him off guard just long enough for Harold to land a punch that echoed through the office. Get the records, Harold shouted, eyes blazing with urgency. Delilah, hands shaking, quickly stuffed the essential documents into her bag and turned. Let us go! Together they dashed for the door, escaping into the downstream of the chaos in the hotel, desperation making each moment a tightrope act above the fires of their dread. Outside, rain poured down in a relentless stream, mixing with the panic of the crowd that had amassed by the entrance. Sirens blared in the distance, a refuge of hope. The storm was still raging both outside and inside their hearts. But they had something now, something they could breathe life into, something that could bring justice to the lost souls lingering in the shadows of the Grand Elm. They reached the stairs. The sun began to break through dark clouds, illuminating what lay ahead: freedom, truth, and a new beginning. With every step down, Delilah felt lighter, the weight of their fight invigorating her spirit. They might have uncovered a darkness that threatened to consume them, but now they finally had the chance to expose it. Let us not let this go to waste, she said, glancing up at Harold, the adrenaline still coursing through her. We'll tell everyone what really happened, and we'll make sure it's known. His voice resonated with newfound strength. With the storm finally beginning to pass, they turned toward the road, where the sirens blaring signaled the dawn of truth's arrival, a collective reckoning that would sweep the hotel clean of its shadows. The Grand Elm had played its last card, but its secrets would live on in the fight they forged together. Freedom awaited, and Delilah felt a warmth, a flicker of hope, now brighter and more profound than ever before. The past may haunt the hotel, but they would remain steadfast, balance restored, the truth secured. You're not alone anymore, she whispered, looking up at the darkened building that loomed behind them, a pillar of whispered pasts, but now an echo of resilience. Let's make sure they all remember. And with that final breath of determination, she set her path forward. Now, this is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Don't miss the next exclusive stories. You won't want to regret it. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Show your support for all the hard work that goes into these amazing tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. I want to hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this fantastic conclusion. Let us spark a revolution and keep this community growing strong.